Hello, and welcome to another podcast episode. We're going to talk today a little bit about key centers, and we'll think about this in the context of Blue Bossa. I've been releasing a few YouTube shorts on this, so maybe we'll work on that, and kind of in keeping with that. Blue Bossa has basically two key areas that it visits. And if you're listening to this, check out the Circle of Fifths on Wikipedia, or do a search on it, and kind of keep that in mind as we go. So if we have a C, if let's say we're in the key of C minor, okay, then we have these three flats, okay, and then our tonic note is C. Okay, so we're in the key of C minor. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to, the melody has to use all those seven notes, because remember, there's the C natural, D natural, F, and G in addition to those three that I mentioned at the beginning. So it could have an A natural that'd be perfectly fine. And actually, in minor, there's often a lot of change that happens as the progressions go through. But to think in terms of key signature is really pretty important on any tune that is a tonal kind of tune. So for example, you may be improvising on more of a with an A natural, or maybe with the A flat, or with a B natural at times, with the E flat and the A flat. So it can be a fairly kind of dynamic thing to think about your kind of collection of notes. But key signature right from the very beginning is important, because that's how the kind of musical system has been developed over time. So if we have F minor 7, okay, that's going to be the 4 chord, because we would count up from the C, the tonic, so anything built on the F would be a 4 chord. And now if I keep strictly in this key, then I'm going to have a minor chord, right? Because there's an A flat in the key of 3 flats. Okay? Same thing here on the 2 chord. If there's a root note and you're trying to build a chord, and let's say you stay kind of strictly in the key of 3 flats, C minor, you're going to get a minor 7 flat 5 type of chord just by stacking every other note starting on the D. Okay, and they get 4 notes. Okay, so then the notes are D, F, A flat, C. Okay, so there we have the 2 chord. Now when we get to the 5 chord, G7, this is something that a lot of folks struggle with, is this idea of changing the changing nature of minor, because there's no real built-in dominant 7th chord in the for key of 3 flats when you're thinking about the minor, relative minor, right? So we alter it a little bit by taking the B, giving it a B natural, and that helps us to create some tension into the C minor. So this tension and resolution. Okay, so we get some movement there as we move through. Okay, now the tune also goes into the key of 5 flats, and it visits the relative major for that key signature. So each key signature has a relative minor and a relative major. So far, we had the key of 3 flats and we're working with the relative minor. Then we go to the key of 5 flats and we're visiting the relative major of that key signature. What happens before it is a function of a 2, 5 to 1. Okay, so that has certain motion to it and a certain thing that's happening that helps to draw the ear to resolve, at least temporarily, on the D flat major 7. I'm playing D flat major 9 in this example. Okay, so let's focus in on the 5, 1 in the key of 5 flats. Okay, so we have, now this is all built in. When I say built in, it's another word for it is just diatonic. So this is just in the major scale, right? So we have these notes to resolve over to the 1 chord. So the 2 part of it is known as a predominant, and that moves to the dominant, right? So it comes before the dominant, and then you get the dominant. The dominant generally resolves to the 1 chord, right, in the key that you're in. So this gets us into why we might use certain names for certain chords. So there's I've had I think 2 comments similar in nature on the YouTube channel about why I chose to. I think one, I actually wrote the name of the chord on the shorts video. The other one, I just kind of hollered out the chords as I was going through them, demonstrating this tune actually, Blue Bossa. So, when I go into here, if I could call this note here on string 2, I'm in position 3. Let's say I'm playing a G7 and I've got a E flat up here. If you imagine, a C, let's say C harmonic minor scale, we're going to have a D in that scale, and then we're going to have an E flat. It wouldn't be D sharp because generally, if you're working with 7 notes, you don't really need to or want to repeat a note name, right? So it would follow that we may not want to think about this as a sharp 5, but rather a flat 13, since relative to the G note, if I were to count up here, I would have root, flat 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 13. Okay, but you can really call it a sharp 5. It's perfectly fine, I would say. Leave a comment if you disagree with that or agree with that. But essentially, it's going to get the point across if you call it a sharp 5. If I read a chord symbol as sharp 5, I'm perfectly fine with that. but I'm just naming it here just kind of based on the key, right? So thinking of it in the context. So that would be kind of my approach to doing it. And it sort of brings up an issue that I think is important, which is thinking in key signature. So if you're dealing with any what's called functional harmony, then you really want to be thinking in terms of key signatures, key areas, and function, right? 5 to 1, master the 5-1. That's a very important thing, and it's just sort of in the nature of the sound. There's sort of like a gravity to it. The 5-1 in major and the 5-1 in minor. Okay, well, that's going to cover our talk for today. I am planning to do more of these podcast episodes. So plans are to do at least a couple or a few per week. And I'll mention too that members of the Lessons and Talks have access to the video version of the podcast, as well as doing some live streams on the channel as well. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a great practice session.